Well, so let's just assume that we're fuzzy, and that means that you all have been drinking before turning in to our broadcast. So let's go with that as a plan, and assume that is what has
Sound
actually
is
occurred.
much better.
Um, I don't know. It's been, like I said, been a week.
Yes, we
Um,
got to see Matt
Petrick,
Dietrich.
Petrick online,
Yeah.
talking to us about rum, talking
Uh-huh.
to us about making cocktails, and we did 3 cocktails with him.
Yeah.
Um, he seems a really sweet guy. I made 4 because I needed to get another cocktail stuck in there, so I shoved a Mai Tai in. That's my shoved a sign in, right? The Miami Dolphins beat the Arizona Cardinals. Yay! So I'm happy.
Football.
Football, yes,
Football. Okay.
football. Let's see, what else? What else is good? There was a little political thing that happened.
Yeah, I worked. I was a election
She was.
worker.
She was. Yep. And
I-
so
I-
now she's unfortunately quarantining because she met like
1,000 people.
1,000 people, right?
Yeah.
So she's in quarantine, which because proximity means I'm basically in largely in quarantine. Not quite as bad. Let's see what else happened. So on that political thing, we had record turnout, highest turnout there's ever been for presidential election. Record turnout
voted.
on both
Yay.
sides. For weeks I've been saying vote. That's all I said. Vote. Go out and vote. And you did. So awesome. I'm going to just chalk it up to me. I said go out and vote. Y'all voted. That's pretty awesome. Okay. What else happened? November 3rd. November 3rd is the birthday for the giant lizard himself. Yay, verily, 1954, the big lizard Godzilla Tiki shirt, was on big screen for the very first time ever. So there we go. Big shout out. Happy birthday to Godzilla.
Yay! Go Godzilla! In fact, the last concert that I saw
Yes.
before we all got locked down, Pooch was on a business trip and couldn't join me. Ha ha ha! And I think Kaylin went with me.
Yeah.
And
I'm
we went to see Blue Oyster Cult and we went to hear Godzilla.
I'm not bitter at all.
No,
Nope.
not at all.
Nope. Like 12-day-old grapefruit juice. I'm not bitter at all. Right. Okay. So a lot of good things happened this week. So we are cracking open.
We cracked it open Thursday.
Okay, we did crack it open Thursday.
Thursday,
Friday.
Saturday.
Days blending
Whatever
together.
day it was.
It was just yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. So it was just Saturday. This is the single most expensive bottle of rum we have. This is the Samaroli Jamaican Rhapsody. This stuff is a brilliant rum. We got it during a tasting of Samaroli rums at and Sipsmith Gins. At one of our favorite establishments for purchasing all sorts of alcoholic beverages, and that would be S&R Liquors in the district. They do not pay me to say that, although, if they wanted to, that'd be great. Well, we're going to drink some Jamaican Rhapsody because, yeah. So you might notice we are not drinking out of like little traditional shot glasses. These guys, I'm not sure if you can see them. We still don't quite have this little platform up where you can see them yet. I'm going to work on the heights here, but they're like little itty bitty tiki shot glasses.
And they stack.
So each one has a different image on it, and you can stack them like such and have like a little totem pole. So if you wanted to do a flight of rums, you could do a vertical flight of rums from lightest to darkest or something along those lines, and that would be like very cute. So here you go, hun. Here's a little Samaroli rum. Love you dearly. Love the big lizard. I love democracy. What else? I love making tiki drinks and meeting good friends or meeting just cool people that are also into tiki. So I'm going to have a sip of Samaroli, and then we're going to make some cocktails.
So when we were tasting this, I wouldn't let him tell him the price, and I got the price, and I went over and got him a bottle, and I don't regret it, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I don't either. How's that? That is some really awesome rum, and the thing that makes that rum is there's two things. One is the balance of that rum. There is nothing that seems out of place in that rum. It just seems right. All the pieces work together. They come to a nice, not quite singular flavor profile, and then the finish. The finish just lingers and lingers and lingers. It is Jamaican, so you're talking pot still. And you can get often a lot of funk off of the Jamaican rums, and this has that characteristic funk, but it's there, it's present, it's unmistakably Jamaican, but it's tamped down and it doesn't overpower the rum at all. So that's just a brilliant rum. It is also aged differently. So almost all of the rums that we talk about that are aged in the Caribbean, and I've blathered on about aging in the past, but aging in the Caribbean is very different from something like aging in Europe. The climates are completely different, more humid, much hotter. The angel share that comes out and evaporates is much higher, and so as a consequence, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule about how many years of aging in the Caribbean to how many years of aging in Europe. But the Samaroli is in fact aged in Scotland. I believe so. Yep, product of Scotland. It is certainly bottled in Scotland, blended and bottled in Scotland, a blend of Jamaican rum casks. And that's what Samaroli does. Samaroli is primarily known for Scotch, but they make particularly good rums as well, blended Scotches. So there we go. We are enjoying some Samaroli rum. It's going to just sip through the evening. But it is November, and it's getting later in November. We're past the first week in November already, which means, hey guys, it's fall, and Tiki's summer and spring and tropics and big ball of fire in the sky over palm trees and that sort of thing, which seems like an odd mix to fall, quite frankly. Leaves changing, spices change, not quite as, you don't have a whole lot of lemons, limes, and oranges that are suddenly being produced on trees. It's more apples and berries and that sort of thing. So we're going to try and be true to our tikiness, but we're also going to switch up our flavor profiles a little bit and make them just a little bit more fall in nature. So we're going to give that a try. I did, it was a little more relaxed this weekend, not so much boom, 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 got to get done. So as a consequence, had some time to just play around on the internet and see some various and sundry recipes and try a few things. So we're going to give this a shot here. Wants to move this back. Like that. Okay. All right. So we're going to try 3 different recipes. The last one we're going to do is a basic punch recipe that I'm going to follow up a little bit. And the other 2 come about from the internet. So the first one is called Autumn in the Tropics. And I was drawn to this one because as I'm flipping through various cocktails, what the heck is that as a garnish sitting in this thing? I had a great big squash blossom sticking out of it. Now, I don't have any squash blossoms, so we're not going to do that garnish. But it caught my eye, forced me to read. So, there we go. That's how this wound up. It looked yummy. So we're going to give it a try. But I have some leftover ingredients from the Halloween party, one of which is a lychee syrup. And so we're going to try and make use of the lychee syrup and change this cocktail up just a little bit. Now, I have no idea whether or not lychee fruit are in season in the fall, spring, summer, or what. I'm sure someone could look it up. I just didn't bother to do so. So I have no idea if lychee is a fall fruit. We're going to call it a fall fruit. So there you go. So what are we going to do? We are going to shake this cocktail.
In fall, we move to canned fruits.
My wife does point out that often in fall, particularly in winter, we do move to preserved fruits like canned and jarred fruits. And well, the syrup comes from a can of lychees, so not fresh lychee. So it doesn't really freaking matter whether or not lychees are in season, because canned lychees are always in season. All right, so we have shaker tin. We need some lychee syrup. We need some lemon juice, some pineapple juice, a little Aperol. Now that seems a little weird. Aperol I usually think of as summer, but we're going to go with that little bit of bitter digestif, and it's kind of that orangey color, which is very fall. So we're going to go with that. Oh, by the way, there is no pumpkin here. Nope, not doing the pumpkin. The wife's not a big fan of pumpkin. I'm still going to work on my pumpkin bitters, but none of these cocktails are using pumpkin. Some rum, and then we're going to use some blackberry bitters. So this also happens to have a few blueberries in it, and I happen to have some blueberries here. I was like, it says 6 to 8 blueberries, so we're going to just dump those in there. And we are going to add some simple syrup, in this case 3/4 of an ounce of lychee syrup. And I'm going to pop the top here. 3/4 of an ounce lychee syrup. I didn't bother to strain this, so there's probably bits of lychee floating in it. And I'm not going to care, because when you see what the garnish is, yeah, it's not going to matter whether or not things are floating in this cocktail. All right, so there's our lychee syrup. We need some lemon juice. 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. Most of the ingredients in here are, in fact, in equal proportions, which makes this drink really easy. You know, you're not measuring, oh, 1.25 ounces of this and 3/4 of an ounce of that and 1/2 ounce of this. It's like 3/4, 3/4, 3/4. So that's helpful. 3/4 of an ounce of pineapple juice. So it's fresh-ish pineapple juice. It's not the most amazingly fresh pineapple juice, but it will do. Double quick check. Stick the nose in there, make sure your pineapple juice isn't fermenting. Pineapple juice could do that. It can just, of its own accord, start to ferment. I think it has something to do with the must and the yeasts that are on the husk of the pineapple, which is kind of fun, but it develops a little bit of a bitter taste to it as well, so that's probably not the best thing in the world to be using. But that pineapple juice is just fine. We're going to be good with that. 3/4 of an ounce of Aperol. Dun, dun, dun. Sort of a bitter orange aperitif. 3/4 of an ounce. We've used this in the past, and I usually use this as a substitute for Campari when I'm making drinks for my wife, because it has a lot of the same characteristics, but is way less bitter than Campari. And so if you make a Jungle Bird with Aperol, my wife will drink it. If you make a Jungle Bird with Campari, it comes to me, because she won't touch it. All right, so there we go. Oh, you know, I should muddle these, so I'm going to reach in before I add the rum and the like, and just scrunch up these blueberries just a tad. Now, blueberries will break up really easily, so you don't have to put a whole lot of pressure here, and you're not just trying to destroy them. So there we go. Yep, all muddled and gross. That'll work. So there's the blueberries. We need 2 dashes of bitters, and here I'm going to go with my blackberry bitters, just because the blackberry bitters seem like a good mix with the blueberries and are quite fall-like. The original recipe calls for Angostura, I believe, right? I did not, in fact, mark that down, what it calls for. So we're going to go just 2 dashes of those. Now, these bitters are a little weaker than, say, Angostura, and so I could probably go with another dash, but I do not want them to overpower the cocktail. I want to know what this cocktail tastes like in its closest to its original form before I go throwing in more bitters and that sort of thing. So now we need rum. So here's my issue. So Mr. Nick Hines off of VinePair website is the one that has provided this recipe. And there's 1.25 ounces of rum in here. Nick doesn't specify what kind of rum. There's a lot of rums out there. It could be just about anything could go in here. But we're looking for a fall flavor, something that is going to complement a fall nature. So I am torn. Part of me really wants to use an aged rum agricole, because I associate fall with like leaves changing and sort of the grass turning brown and that sort of thing. And I'm hoping that sort of the aged grassy elements of the aged rum agricole will give that to me. But I also sort of associate fall with these deep, rich, spicy notes, which would argue for something like, oh, I don't know, a Demerara rum. So I'm torn on these two, but I don't actually want to mix them together for fear that they will just clash horribly and I won't be able to taste either one. So I am going to go with my first instinct, and we're going to go with the aged rum agricole. And for that, we're going to use the Clement VSOP, which nobody can see because it's all fuzzy, right? And I'm burning my arm. All right. So there was a comment that said maybe a dark rum for fallness. Well, I don't know. So it's not really, really dark, but it's certainly not a clear rum. So we're going to go ahead and do that. This is 1 1/4 ounces, which seems like an odd measure to me. So there's 3/4, and there's half. Now, Nick, I'm trusting you here on this one, even though you didn't tell me which kind of rum to use. I'm trusting you that this will all work out. We're going to swirl this a little bit, stick our nose down in here, and see what this smells like. It smells surprisingly like lychee. So yeah, maybe not so surprisingly. All right, so what are we going to do? We're going to put some ice in here. We're going to shake this up good. I'm actually going to add a little crushed ice to this. There we go. It goes in there. We are going to put this in a nice tall glass. Now you might remember, if you are one of our listeners, visitors, whatever, this wonderful glass, the Figment Glass. Well, we decided we liked this glass so much we went out and got its matching pair. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the cat this is named after. First one is Figment. I don't remember. But Ember. Ember sounds right. Well, we will double check that. So we're going to make it in that glass. So I'm going to lid this up, shake it, and away we go. All right, nice and cold, a lot of frost on there. I'm liking that. There's a nice head on this. Got everything in there? Yeah, pineapple juice, everything. All right, excellent. So we're just going to pour this in. We get a little bit of foam from the pineapple. Yeah, that's kind of pretty. Oh, wait. There we go. There's an unmuddled blueberry. The blueberries are all kind of floating in there. Now, the little floating blueberries give it a kind of a weird look to it, like something's clearly floating in that. So I decided, let's go back a couple of days and let's invoke our Halloween flavor for this cocktail. And what I have here is a pick that has got some lychees in it, and what I've done is I've stuck blueberries inside the lychees and then skewered them to make this look like a set of eyeballs. And when you do this right, you can even get these little lychee nuts that have like this little tail hanging off of them, like the nerve ending of the eye. Yeah, so you can totally gross people out. Here, we're just gonna stick it, there we go, right through the eye. Yep. And then we're just gonna pop that into our cocktail. So you got floating eyes. Oh man, there's an eye looking at me right there. Oh, that's totally gross and awesome. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna stick a orange straw in there because it's a very orangey cocktail. Right there. And then we're gonna take a sip and we're gonna see how Nick Hines, see what he's done for us.
We do have 2 questions. How is
That's pretty tasty. The lychee definitely comes through. I'm second guessing my my rum agricole because I'm not picking up. Oh no, there's some there. It's in the background, but you may have been right. I may have needed a deeper, darker rum to really get the fall flavor profile through here. But I think it's in its current status. I think it works really well as sort of a transitional drink. So early fall, late summer, early fall drink. Star's a big fan of lychee, so I'm sure this is going over.
Lychee and yeah, pineapple. And,
right. Now, if you want to really gross this up a little more, so you can take a cocktail pick, and what we have here is a rambutan or a rambutan half with little fuzzy bits on it. This is an Asian fruit, and if you look at it this way, after cutting it, it really looks like a freaking eyeball, hairy eyeball sticking out there. So you just scrunch a pick through this. Oh yeah, it's squeezing the eyeball out. Oh, that's so great. There you go. Look, hun, it's staring right at you.
It is. It is. That is pretty awesome here.
So we can do that, and if you bring this up closer, there's a hairy eyeball staring right at you. Arr! No, I'm not actually burning my hand. That's good. All right, so there we go. There's Star's drink for the evening. So, or one of Star's drinks for the evening.
So, question one.
Yes.
No straining?
That I didn't do any straining on. Just straight in.
Depends on the drink often.
Right, on whether you want to use dirty ice or clean ice. So you'll see often that it'll be shaken and then it'll be poured over clean ice. That's particularly true if what you don't want is irregular chunks of ice in your cocktail. But again, we're dealing with a recipe here where, yeah, that's so fun.
So Dizzy Diva pick.
Where we did not, no, that's a Monkey 47 pick.
No, this one's the Dizzy Diva.
Oh, yes, yeah, right. So, where was I? Blah, 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 blah. Easily distracted. Straining, right. So, if it's important to your cocktail, especially visually, that you don't have like irregular ice chunks and that sort of thing in it, then often it'll be strained over clean ice. Really, sorry about that. Really strong drinks often are done over a clean set of ice, especially crushed ice, because you still want some dilution over time of that particular cocktail. If you're making a drink like a Manhattan or something, which is basically all booze, those are almost always served without ice, so they're not. You're gonna get them down to their coldness that you want, and then you're just going to dump them into a glass with no ice whatsoever, or just one big rock, which isn't going to dilute very much at all because you don't want the watery dilution, but it will help keep it right at the temperature that you want. In this case, I'm not all that concerned about the visual imaging of the cocktail because I'm thinking you're going to be staring at the eyeballs that are staring back at you rather than the ice chunks. And just having some mismatched ice chunks in there probably is going to lend itself to the what's going on in this glass and why is it staring at me? So in that case, I mean, perfectly reasonable to do that. Another reason for doing it this way is, quite frankly, if you take the glass and you pack it full of crushed ice and then you strain your cocktail into it, it's much harder to get garnishes down into the cocktail. So what you'd have to do is stick the pick with the lychees in it, add crushed ice, and then strain your cocktail over that. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get the lychees in there. They'll just sit on top, which, you know, maybe that's what you want. But you have to take all that sort of thing into consideration. But again, we're dealing with a recipe that didn't bother to specify what rum, so I don't know how much thought went into that presentation. It also didn't really specify so much. It was like, put ice in. Okay, how much ice? Shake. Okay, pour into glass. You didn't say strain, so I presume no straining, right? So here, we're working with what we got on the recipe, and apparently we turned out a fairly decent drink. So I'm liking that. The wife is liking that. I'm beginning to suspect my wife might like Aperol. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, she really likes Aperol. Or it just brings back memories of the trip to Italy, in which case it's basically the same because it means she likes Aperol. I, however, like Samaroli. I'm going to have a little more of the
Second
Samaroli.
question. Also from Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
Geek Talk Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
What's the key to not freezing your fingers off when you shake? Chef's techniques.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know,
They may
it's
not hear me, so you may need to.
so the question that we got was, what's the secret to not freezing your hands off while you are shaking? I really do think it's pretty much the same answer as, you know, what's the chef's secret to not burning their hands every time they reach into a hot oven or grab a hot pan? They've just done it so much that they just don't, they don't feel it. However, in all honesty, when shaking a shaker and you're trying to get it cold, part of what you're relying upon is not just your hearing of what's happening with the ice in there. So you're hearing a texture change in the ice that's telling you, okay, now it's time to stop. But you're also feeling the metal here and knowing how cold that is. And so you, depending on the drink, you may want to shake a little longer and you may want that to be a little colder. And that feel on the glass is like, oh, I'm getting to the point where this is really beginning to be irksome in terms of how cold it is. Well, that's kind of how I like my daiquiris, is about the time I'm going, that's really cold in my hand, is about the time I want to stop shaking my daiquiri.
You also shake longer than I do because my hands get too cold.
Star points out that when making cocktails, I tend to shake a little longer than she does. Her hands are more sensitive to the cold, and so she will stop earlier. I also think she likes her drinks just a little stronger, and so a little less dilution is probably in order for her as well. So there we go. Does that answer questions? Does that make sense? I'm going to take a sip out of this because that's all of this drink that I'm going to get. Yeah, the lychee really comes through, but doesn't overpower. And I got to say, the lychee syrup, you think, oh, it's just a typical syrup that lychees have been sitting in. You know, it's just a rich syrup. You know, how lychee can it be? But you take a taste of that syrup and you go, oh, it could be that lychee. It's pretty strong on the lychee flavor, but this cocktail does a really nice job of marrying that flavor with other flavors. So I
can taste the lychee and the Aperol.
She can taste the lychee, she can taste the Aperol, she can taste the pineapple, she can taste all these different elements of it.
And they all still also go very well together.
She says that she can even taste the elements of the agricole rum, so that's a bonus in my direction. I think making this drink again and using a darker, more rum with a little more depth to it would also be an intriguing thing, and maybe transitioning this drink over the course of, say, the fall, where you go darker and darker rums, more rums with a little more depth to them until you get to the winter, and then you're basically building fruitcakes in a glass, which sounds good to me, but most of the rest of my friends are like, ew, fruitcake, eh. But hey, I like fruitcake, so. You might also note, and it seems, those memes that go around are like, how old were you when you realized X, Y, or Z, right? How old was I when I realized, wait a second, the same spice profiles that are in tiki drinks are largely baking spice profiles from fall and winter. Here you've got the allspice and the clove and the nutmeg and the cinnamon. I associate all of those spices with fall, but I also associate them with tropical paradise and tiki. So we've got that bridge right there that is going to link fall and tiki together. So I'm hoping that plays out in this next cocktail. So the next cocktail is called Fall in Paradise. So we had autumn in the tropics, and now we have fall in paradise. Not fall from paradise or not fall into paradise. No, it's fall in paradise. All right. So what does this have? So this is going to really ramp up a lot of those baking spice heavy notes. And so how are we going to do that? Well, the secret magic ingredient for hitting those baking notes in almost any tiki drink is going to be allspice dram. And here we've got an unopened, no, it's an open bottle of St. Elizabeth allspice dram. This stuff is really yummy. The clove the clove is predominant here, but you also get some cinnamon elements. You get a little nutmeg. There's definitely some allspice here. Not really any star anise, but it's just, there's so many spices here, and it smells like baking and cookies. So we're going to go with the St. Elizabeth's Allspice Dram in this cocktail. I'm also going to cough, sorry. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. We're going to go with some lime juice here. And we've got lime as our typical cocktail juice for tiki drinks. We're going to go with a Demerara rum. So I don't need the funk of the Jamaican rums because, well, we've already got the allspice dram in there. And it's pretty easy sometimes to get the funk and the allspice dram to kind of compete with one another. So we're not going to do that. But we still want something that's got some complexity to it and some richness to it. And so we're going to go with an Eldorado 8 as a Demerara rum. What else we got in here? Odd things. There's a peach bitters is called for in this cocktail. I happen to have some peach bitters over here, so we're going to use those. And there's apple cider in the cocktail. And the apple cider for me, I mean, there's very few drinks that sing to me more of fall than apple cider. And so we're going to use some apple cider in this cocktail as well. And this is brought to us from gastronomblog.com. So the husband and wife team, I think, that refer to themselves as the Noms, and they do food reviews, put up cocktail recipes and that sort of thing. It's the first chance I've had to do one of their recipes, so we're going to give this a try. So gastronomblog.com. Check them out, I guess. There's also pineapple juice in here, which is great because we're trying to use up the pineapple juice before it goes bad. So this will all work out, I promise. I hope. We're going to see what we can do here. All right. All of these ingredients go into our shaker tin. We're going to shake it, and then we're going to pour it into a glass. All right. We're going to shake it with crushed ice, actually. So I need a ½ ounce of the allspice dram. And the allspice dram is primarily going to serve as our sweetener as well. The pineapple does a little bit of that. There's a ½ ounce. ½ ounce is a lot of allspice dram. I mean, you sometimes see recipes that go for as little as, a few drops or teaspoons of allspice dram just because it is so potent. All right. Lime juice. ½ ounce lime juice. So someday, what I am hoping to do, we're going to go a little over on the lime juice, a little tartness here. You see me often just looking over here and referring to my notes on the various drinks. What I think we're going to try and do at some point in the future is put up something teleprompter-ish, like a big chalkboard or something, or a whiteboard that I can see, so I can continue to talk to you while seeing my drink recipes up there. Give that a try at some point in the future. We'll see how that goes. So we'll try that. If this is disturbing to you, then know that there is help on the way. How's that? All right, what else are we going to do? We got the allspice dram. We got the lime juice. We need some apple cider. 1.5 ounces of apple cider. And here I'm just using Meyer Brothers apple cider. Limited time only, 100% juice, pasteurized. 1.5 ounces, so we're going to go 3/4 ounce, and then we're going to double that. Yeah, 3/4 ounce doubled. Doing math here. Math is good. Math is that thing that enables you to do the things that you want to do. So there's 1.5 ounces. And we also need the elder brother of science, yeah. We need 1.5 ounces of the pineapple juice. Give this a quick shake. Pineapple juice does like to separate, especially as it gets older. So you do want to give that a shake if your pineapple juice is any more than about a day or two old. Ideally, of course, you would use your pineapple juice like day of, but it's COVID, and so we don't have people and aren't inviting people over to do these tiki drinks and enjoy them with us. So as a consequence, some of these ingredients last a little longer than maybe they would normally do. We need 4 to 5 dashes of the peach bitters. So here we're using Fee Brothers Peach Bitters. Oh, I hear a little tiki music in the background. Or some birds. Or that's going to drive our cat up a wall, which is going to be great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 dashes of those peach bitters. Oh, you can truly tell the peachness there. It's just wafting out of that glass. All right, and then we need the Eldorado. I have no idea how much. 1.5 ounces of the Eldorado. Well, that's easy enough. There we go. There is 1.5 ounces of the Eldorado. And here we went with the Eldorado 8. The Eldorado 8 is kind of my standard go-to Demerara rum. Actually, I'm going to go, this goes back here. This goes up here. It's at a good price point. It's got a lot more character, I think, than the 5-year, and isn't going to break the bank like the 15-year. So, although the 15-year, I'm sure, would be really good in this, but we're not going to go there. All right, so let me double check. We have the Allspice Ram, check. Lime juice, check. The Eldorado 8, check. Peach bitters, yes. Apple cider, yes. Pineapple juice, yes. And then we're going to add some crushed ice to this, and then we're going to shake it. Shake, shake, shake. Here's some crushed ice. So my wife points out that there is a problem with giving her any drink that has something muddled in it. And that is that she feels compelled to go through the drink and get all of the muddled goodness out of it. And so she's using straws and chopsticks and that sort of thing to get every little bit of the muddled goodness out of those cocktails. I think it's great because it just keeps her occupied, which gives me more of a chance that I will actually be able to get more than just a gratuitous taste of this cocktail. All right, so here we go. We're going to lid this up and we're going to shake this. So it does occur to me a couple of things about the shaking that question that was asked earlier about how do you keep your hands from just freezing to death on this. There are a couple of things that you can do to help with that. I am going to, we're going to put this in one of the tiki mugs. This is one of the tiki mugs that was given to us by our good friends Zach and Amy. We have followed Zach from bar to bar to bar to bar because he's just amazing. We had our first drinks with him before we knew him as a bartender, and then have just continued to follow him or stalk him depending on your perspective. But
he gave us gifts, so I don't think it's stalking.
Yeah, he gave us gifts. So the two of them were very nice. They gave us a set of 4 tiki mugs to commemorate the virtual tiki party that we did for fall. And so we're going to make use of one of those this evening. We are just going to pour this directly in. Just like that. And we are going to add some mint to this. Smack that around a little bit. I can hear the questions now. Why are you smacking mint? I'm smacking mint so that you all have to drink, because that's the rule, right? If I smack, you have to drink. We're going to stick a big straw in here. Where is my blue straw? Oh, let's use the lightsaber straw. That's not the lightsaber straw.
No.
Okay, this is our tiki straw. So it's very hard to see because this is a very dark straw, but there's a little tiki face that is carved into the, or melded into the top of this glass straw, which makes it very cool. You're looking at it going, wait, that's a face that's staring back at me. Yeah, so that's pretty neat. All right, so what we have here is the Fall in Paradise. And again, this comes to us from gastronomblog.com. So, right. The other thing, it's paradise, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, paradise is really pretty and all. And so what we're going to do here, need to go over to my cutting board, pull that out. We have another little rambutan, the other half of that. So, I mean, that's kind of pretty and tropical. So that's going to go there. Then we have a few of our cocktail orchids left. So this is a really pretty blue cocktail orchid. I'm not sure that the light is doing it justice. It's been dyed to be that color. So that's going to go in there. I know, I can't quite, there we go. But it's not, it wouldn't be paradise if there weren't an overabundance of flowers. So here we have a more typical cocktail orchid, a bright pink and purple colors. So that's going to go in there. A little straw peeking itself up. And then we're going to stick it, look at, see, there you go. Ta-da. I'm going to take a quick taste of this. I think you're going to like this one too, sadly enough. So that might mean that I don't get much of it. Well, you would expect, I think, from a cocktail that's got that much apple cider in it, that you'd really taste the apple cider, but it blends into the cocktail very nicely. You can tell it's there, but I don't think you would unless somebody told you that it was there. The allspice dram and the apple cider are a beautiful mix in that cocktail. Like I said, allspice dram can sometimes be overpowering. This doesn't do that at all. It's very, very nice. Yep, I like that cocktail. I'm going to reach under here, and I'm going to pull out a glass. Pour the last remnants of the fall in paradise into that glass, because it didn't fill, or it filled the entire glass, and therefore there was some left over. So yay, I get cocktail while my wife is finishing off the beauteous cocktail in the new tiki mugs. All right, so I was talking about shakers getting cold and things you can do about that. And I think that was Amanda that asked that question. So one of the things you'll note, Amanda, when I'm making my cocktails is that instead of using a Boston shaker that has a metal top on both top and bottom, or that has a glass top on one end and a metal bottom, that I am using ones that have a plastic tumbler. So we got these just tiki mugs, tiki glasses, Big Island Tours, Hang Ten Beach Club, Tiki Lounge, printed all on them. They're just plastic glasses, like a punch glass sort of thing. What's really nice about those is that while the plastic does not get cold, so if your hand is mostly on the plastic, you're good. Also, because the plastic fits inside the metal, this upper portion of the metal here isn't getting very cold either. So my hands, when they're up in this area, really aren't feeling the cold. Although when I go down here, I can definitely feel it. The other thing that you can do, and this was brought to my attention from a cocktail video that was talking about doing dry shakes. So you do a dry shake when you're trying to activate like an egg foam. And unfortunately, the way this works when you're shaking is that the metal gets cold and therefore contracts. So even with a plastic, this metal piece is going to contract and hold that down for you when you've got ice in there. When you're doing a dry shake, you're doing it without ice. So as a consequence, there's nothing to cause the metal to contract and keep that shut for you. This is aggravated by the fact that as you are shaking the foam, it's expanding in volume and therefore trying to push your cocktail shaker apart. I had visceral experience with this one time at a party, and I did not realize just how much pressure that was generating, and managed to cause my shaker to come apart on me, all over me, in fact. And so I finished up that cocktail and making that cocktail, and then tromped on upstairs and changed clothes and came back down. So there you go. Don't do that. So the reason I mention that is because one of the tricks that is talked about for keeping that shut is to use a bar towel, and to wrap a bar towel around this portion and pull it, twist it so that it is tight. And it occurs to me that if you are doing that, so this is nice and tight to hold that together on a dry shake, that also gives you a convenient spot where it is not really, really icy cold. And you could hold your shaker and continue to do that. I'll have to give that some experimentation. But again, my hands I'm used to dealing with really, really ice cold shakers, and I like having that feel of, okay, I know how cold that is. You'll also sometimes see me because you can't tell how cold something is just by sound, right? So you really do need to touch and feel. And when I'm stirring drinks, you'll often see me, if I got my mixing pint, I will stop the mixing and just run my hand along the back of my hand against that glass to get a feel for how cold that is and where it is in terms of dilution. So there you go. There's a couple of tricks. So sure, why not? Let's talk about shakers that don't want to come apart. So normally when dealing with a Boston shaker, you've got two pieces, a small piece and a large piece, and the small piece fits inside the large piece, right? You lid that up. You don't even have to do it particularly tightly, because as you shake, both of these get cold, they shrink together and they form this lock that you can't open sometimes. And you see guys, they're like pounding on the side in order to get this. And if you've got a really good seal, this will move back and forth and around and still won't open. And you're just like, come on, open for me. Well, as it turns out, there's a brilliant way to do this. So you always, when you are mixing something cold, put this in at an angle, right? So it's flat up against one side and there's a gap on this side, right? Well, as it turns out, in order to break that vacuum seal, if you press on either side here, you go and press both sides there, because these tins are relatively easy to bend metal, it will just pop that right off. So there's no banging or smacking that has to occur. You can just press here and this will come right out. So there you go, there's a tip for you. But if you're like me and you're using the plastic, the plastic's easily malleable. I can just bend that plastic with a pinch of my fingers and this pops right out, which is another reason why I love using these guys. Unfortunately, they are plastic and I'm throwing a fair amount of ice around. So you may have noticed I've got some painter's tape on the bottom of these, because there's a couple of them. There's some minor cracks down here in the plastic, and the painter's tape does a wonderful job of just holding it shut. So it also tells me which ones of these I have relegated to shaking duty and which ones are just drinking glasses. Not that you can't use a regular drinking glass for that purpose. All right, so there you go. There's some...
Amanda says she's been using a towel.
Using a towel, there you go.
Based on what you said earlier, it won't increase her toughness. So she'll just muddle through. Muddle through,
there you go. As we all do. How do you run the empire? You just muddle through, right? All right, wow, that's very fall. The allspice dram and the apple cider really come together there. I think you can go with a different rum though. I think something more than a Demerara. I think something with a deeper complexity would be really good in that.
This is apple pie.
Yeah,
warm apple pie.
That absolutely is.
Yeah,
this
apple pie with cinnamon on it.
Star, as you probably can't tell, you can't hear Star, but Star is saying this is like drinking apple pie. It really is. This is phenomenally good if what you like is apple pie. And if I'd thought of it, I would have taken this wonderful apple that I have here and done a nice garnish with that. But nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to drink. Well, here you go. There's your cocktail. There's your garnish. Deal with it. Ta-da. No, I liked the other garnish better with all of the fruit and all of the orchids hanging off of it and the mint. Also, I think the mint helps olfactorily. So, just shoving a great big thing of mint into your glass, while it looks cool and it's very tiki to just throw the mint there, there's a reason for it. We do taste mostly with our olfactory senses. So when you stick a straw into something that's got a bunch of mint right there, you are tasting through your nose some of that mint and making that work in that cocktail for you. So yeah, the mint actually serves a purpose, not just green foliage. We have one more drink to go, and we're going to do a riff off of a punch recipe. And so let's go ahead and do that.
I do have a comment. If you haven't ordered Minimalist Tiki, which is only available on their website, and you want to, if you put in the comments, like the shipping direction comments, that you want it signed, he'll sign it.
Ooh.
So,
all right.
We mentioned that last night on the chat.
That's pretty awesome.
So so this is the first edition. They're now on third edition. There's been some changes. So we've now ordered the third edition, but that one we're getting signed.
As Matt says, with it, third edition has like a third less typos in it. The other major difference between the first edition and the third edition. So in the first edition, there is a set of 30 classic tiki cocktails. And Matt goes through and lays out all the ingredients for those cocktails and puts them on a grid, and therefore gives you the ingredients list, the shorthand ingredients list for what you need to make those 30 cocktails with. And so you can go down through that list and decide, I only want to have X number of these ingredients, and that means I can do these 15 of that or whatever. And we have here on the Quarantiki broadcast, we have worked our way through all 30 of those classic cocktails. So in the first edition, I think it's the last chapter in the book, gave you the recipe for each one of those cocktails in its classic version. The third edition of the book actually does away with the recipes for the classic cocktails, and instead, because you can get those recipes, they're everywhere, quick on the web, or Beachbum Berries, Total Tiki. I think Total Tiki, is that the name of the web app?
I think so.
Which has all of those recipes in it. There's very few differences between Matt's recipes and the ones in Barry's app. So those recipes are available. So as a consequence, the 30 classic tiki recipes that are in the third edition are all riffs and slight changes on those 30 classic cocktails. So that's a great resource to say, okay, this is what the 1934 zombie was. Here's a modern update of that, and see what they've done and how they've done it, which is great for all of you budding tiki bartenders out there that want to go, well, what could I do that is just a riff on a classic cocktail to make it my own, to make this my home bar's cocktail. So there you go. That'll help. That, and like I said earlier, Matt seems like a really nice guy. So, okay. Shout out to Matt Petrick, Minimalist Tiki. We have one more cocktail. So here we go. My dad was in the Navy, and as a consequence, we spent a lot of time on the west coast of California, in the middle Pacific. So the tropics, Polynesia, it's kind of in my blood. And tiki, I have this visceral memory of sort of tiki cocktails and the funny, cool names like Suffering Bastard and that sort of thing. You know, the only time as a little kid I get to say the word Suffering Bastard was when I was reading it off of a cocktail menu in a Chinese restaurant, right? So, you know, I just have these wondrous memories of tiki and tiki cocktails. Even if Dad was not necessarily a tiki cocktailist, there was always a little bit of alcohol around the house. And so, I chalk up to my dad a part of this love of all things Polynesian cocktailing and that sort of thing. So for the fall being a time of family gatherings, this is going to be a bit of a shout out. So I'm just, this is a basic punch recipe. I think my dad would have loved it. And the shout out is to him. And I'm just going to call this drink, Thanks, Pa, for everything you've done. Yeah, so that's what it is. So here we're going to make a punch. We're going to call it Thanks, Pa. And that's what it's going to be. All right. So what do we need here? Dun, dun, dun. We are going to go with, I'm going to go with the syrup first. As you well know, especially if you've been watching, I have a particular way of trying to build my cocktails. I like to put my syrup in first to clean out my jigger with the things like the citrus and that sort of thing afterwards. Generally, the rule is you start with your cheapest ingredients and you move to your most expensive ingredients. And there's a very good reason for that. If you start off with your 3 ounces of incredibly expensive rum and then you do something wrong, now you just wasted those 3 ounces of your incredibly expensive rum. So usually the most expensive ingredients go in last. There's some deviations from that. You'll see people putting in cocktail bitters early sometimes. The bitters are really expensive on a per ounce basis, but you use so little of them, it really doesn't matter too much. That, and because they can be really overpowering, you want to get them in early, because then you know whether or not you've accidentally gone a couple of dashes over and go, oh yeah, that's not going to work for a cocktail. So I'm going to follow my rule, which is to go with the heavier density, thicker, usually the sweeteners, and then move through juices and that sort of thing. So I'm still going to end up with the most expensive stuff, which is always the rum. All right, so what are we going to do? This is, once again, a shaken cocktail, bottom of a Boston shaker, and then I'm going to use my plastic tumbler mug. Or, wait, can I do this? Yeah, nope, not that one. They do come in different sizes, and I've got all sorts of different tops and bottoms lying around here all over the place. So who knows what fits in what. All right, so what are we going to do? So this is going to start, part of the reason I wanted to do this was I made some new syrup today. So I've been meaning to do this for quite some time. My holiday punches rely on a base. Excuse me, I need to drink more. My holiday punches rely on a base of tea, and I particularly like smoky teas like oolongs, and as a consequence, the weak ingredient in a lot of my punches is tea. But tea doesn't keep, right? So you have to make a fresh batch of tea, and then you have to cool the tea down in order to put it into your cocktails. So thinking to myself, well, wait a second here. What I could do is brew up a batch of tea, some nice strong tea, and then I can dump a bunch of sugar into it and make it into a tea syrup. And so what I have here is a 2-to-1 sugar to tea mix. And after I made the tea, threw the sugar in, made sure all the sugar dissolved, I took the tea leaves and put the tea leaves back in and let that soak for another couple of hours. So this has a nice heavy tea taste to it, but it's a syrup. And it's a 2-to-1 syrup. This sucker will last forever. So go me, let's see how this works in a cocktail. So Russian Caravan, we need 1 ounce of this. It is a 2-to-1 syrup, so going any more than an ounce is probably going to take over a cocktail. Some of you might be asking, well, what kind of sugar did you use? Because you know that I tend to make syrups with a whole bunch of different types of sugars. Sometimes I use Demerara sugar, turbinado, sometimes I use white sugar, you'll use honey, something along those lines. In this case, I just used white granulated sugar, cane sugar. You won't catch me using beet sugar because I'm making tropical drinks, darn it, so we should be using cane sugar, so it makes sense. Besides, I think there's actually a flavor difference between cane and beet sugar, and I really hate beets. Not that you can taste the beet in the sugar, but you know, I just have a thing against beets. So there you go. All right, so there we go. There is an ounce of the tea syrup, and wow, that smells exactly like you would expect it to, a smoky, deep oolong flavored tea with some sweetness to it. Right now, anybody from the South is going, yum, that sounds really good, because this is basically sweet tea right there. Which, wow, okay. What else do we need in here? We need some lemon juice. I think with a tea base, lemon works better than lime. So we're gonna go with 3/4 of an ounce, right? 3/4? 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. We can try this with lime juice, and I traditionally do my punches, my big punches, with a mix of lime and lemon juice. Truth be told, often what I'll do is I'll batch a bunch of drinks and I will have some lime juice and some lemon juice and some grapefruit juice left over, and I just combine all of that into the punch. And the punches are never quite the same, but I've also never had any complaints about them. So there you go. Go ahead and mix your sours here. But primarily, I do think that the merger of lemon and tea together makes a nice mix, as opposed to tea and lime. It's just doesn't seem quite right. All right, so then we need some rum. We're gonna go with 3 full ounces of a Jamaican rum, but I don't want anything that's like amazingly overpoweringly funky. And so I'm gonna go with the Plantation Jamaica. We're gonna go 3 ounces of that. You wouldn't go wrong with, say, the Appleton 12-year. That would be perfectly fine in here. I do think that using anything more funky than that would probably just overpower this cocktail. So if you did like 3 ounces of a Hamden Estate or a Worthy Park Jamaican rum, well, those are really, really high ester rums. You wouldn't taste any of the tea. You would only taste the funk from the Jamaican rum. Those are really good rums. They are incredibly good as sipping rums, and maybe as part of a Jamaican rum profile in another cocktail, but that's an awfully expensive way to be using up your, those are awfully expensive rums to be using in a cocktail, the Hamden Estate, Worthy Estate sort of thing. All right, we're not done here. We want a couple of dashes of Angostura Bitters. We could use any kind of bitters you actually want in here. We're going to go with the aromatic Angostura just because they're a nice starting point. If you're playing around with cocktails and trying to build a cocktail and you want a aromatic bitter component to it, it's always a good idea to start with Angostura and then go from there. If the Angostura profile isn't quite what you want, try something like Peychaud's. If that's not quite what you want, move to one of your other bitters that you might have on hand. We're going to go 2 dashes of Angostura. I happen to have some Japanese bitters. I've got some tiki bitters. I've got some chocolate and mole bitters. So I could go all over the place with this thing. I'm going to add 1 more dash of bitters, and this is an allspice bitters. So this will give me a little bit of kind of an allspice dram flavor to it without being allspice dram. And then we're going to get really funky and creative. Somewhere over here, I have what I call Pooch's mix. Oh wait, no, let's do this. Let's do this instead. I originally had the Pooch's mix on there, and the Pooch's mix is a homemade mix that's got a couple of other ingredients, but it's got some falernum in it, it's got some allspice dram, it's got some absinthe in it, and a couple of other things. And it's really tasty, but I don't want the allspice dram to completely overpower this. So what we're going to do is a zombie mix here, and I'm not going to tell you what's in the zombie mix. You can look it up. And I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 drops of the zombie mix. So as you can imagine, that might have some potency to it. Oh yeah. Oh. Yum. All right, sorry, I'm back. That'll make a zombie out of me. What is this? Oh, that needs to go there. My bitters are falling over. Oh no. All right, so there we go. There's all of our ingredients. We've got the Jamaican rum, the tea syrup, the lemon juice, the Pooch's mix. In this case, we're using the zombie mix, and 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. And you're back.
So one of the things we do Saturday, Sunday mornings for fun is we watch.
Sleep. Oh wait, no.
We sleep. We also watch random videos on YouTube about making cocktails. Often how to drink, which we're really enjoying. But we often watch random other ones.
Greg's kind of like a hero. I mean,
Yeah.
like this guy started off with a little garage broadcast, and now has sponsors and everything, and his production quality is really, really amazing. It's very good. This is total amateur hour here, but we love it and we have fun with it. So,
right. But today we watched one about the zombie, and The guy went on and on about the history of the zombie and the zombie in film, and it was just like, where's the cocktail?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting and it was
It was
fun.
kind of interesting, but it wasn't what I was. If the show was entitled, making this zombie drink, don't not make the drink until 20 minutes in.
It wasn't quite that bad, but it was fairly long into the drink.
Yeah.
Although there was a really, really cool zombie mug that he was using.
There was.
So the zombie mug that he was using is designed after the god face in Indiana Jones' Temple of Doom, the one that had the crystals in it, and the eyes and the mouth are actually open. So you would think the cocktail would just pour through, right? It has a glass tumbler that fits inside there, and a glow cube that when you add liquid to it, the glow cube starts to glow. So you mix the drink, you pour it into the glass tumbler goes into the cocktail mug, and the eyes and mouth glow and throb, and it's very cool looking. It's probably also like a gazillion dollars,
I'm sure.
and it's probably way out of stock at this point, so I'm not going to worry about it.
It was also designed by the guy that designed Trader Sam's.
Yes, that the mug was,
Disney.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's also really cool. Both Trader Sam's, yeah. All right, this, Amanda, this is incredibly cold at this point. Yeah, even that's going to be uncomfortable for me to hold on to for very long, but fortunately, you don't have to hold on to it for very long. Crushed ice will get your drink much colder, much faster, but it also dilutes more. All right, so what are we going to do here? We're going to just dump this into a double rocks glass, also called a Mai Tai glass, at least in my household. And what we're going to do is what's called an open pour with a gated finish. We may not need the gated finish, we'll see. So the open pour, you just pour in till you get about 2/3 or 3/4 full, and then you reach over and you grab a strainer because you don't want it to be all ice. You do this, and if you've done it right, what do you know? Come right up to the top of the glass. You don't have to add any more crushed ice or anything. That all works out very, very nicely. We're going to need a straw here. There's lemon juice in this, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a lemon wedge on the side. If my knife will cut, there we go. So we're going to go and put a nice lemon wedge there. We're going to use the last bits of mint. Everybody got a cocktail in hand? Because here we go. We're going to spank the mint a little. Stick that in there right as a tree. There you go. And straw. Nice clear plastic straw from Surfside Sips. 20% discount buying straws from Surfside Sips if you mention Lovecraft Cocktails. Lovecraft. So there you go. This is Thanks Paw. And we're going to take a taste and see how this works. Hopefully the tea really comes through. Oh, that's a drink that's definitely in my wheelhouse. Oh, there's some wild things happening in that drink. I'm not at all sure my wife would drink that. I think this is one of those drinks where either she's going to go, oh, that's definitely yours, or I may never see this drink again, and I can't tell which one it will be.
That's your drink.
That's my drink.
Yeah.
But hey, take that first sip.
I mean, there's
and
a
then
lot
it's like,
going on there.
And
yeah.
then there's, wait, what's that thing at the end, right? Yeah. Oh, that's quite lovely, actually. I like that. There's you can't. The tea isn't very pronounced, but it's definitely there, and I get more of the tea note in the aftertaste on the cocktail, in the finish of the cocktail, than I do up front. It's definitely. Hi, Alyssa. It's not too sweet. It's definitely not too sweet. I could maybe increase the sweetness just a tad, and that'll cause, no, there's the tea. Wow, that's so bizarre. We get the lemon comes through straight up front. I mean, it's well balanced in the sense of the lemon isn't overpowering, but you can definitely tell there's a lemon flavor up front. But once that lemon goes away and you've swallowed the cocktail, then there's this wonderful sweet tea aftertaste to it that, yeah, if you're a fan of making funky iced teas, particularly things like oolong, this would be a great option. I'm pretty happy with this. You could play around with the bitters, I think. Maybe some tiki bitters instead of the Angostura would be better in there. I think the Angostura is actually accenting the lemon up front, which may not be quite what I want to do with this, but the Japanese bitters might go really, really well in there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to play with this. This has potential. So, that's what Dad said. It's like, kid, you got potential. So, here we go. Thanks, Pa. Everything you did. It's fall, family gatherings, whether that means blood family, chosen family, or both. Here's to you, here's to your family. And I think we're going to sign off pretty quick. So one of the things that, I mentioned that I'm naming this drink after Dad, thanks, Pa. But one of the things, I lived for a number of years because there's a military base in Stockton, California. And at least our earliest trip to Stockton, California, there was a tiki restaurant there called the Islander in Stockton, California. And there's the names, the Islander, Stockton, California. It was one of these great big, huge A-frame restaurants. It was very, very cool. I have some vague recollection of the Islander restaurant, and this is an authentic mug from them. I have I have a slightly different one that looks more like what's more this style of mug. But so that's, trip down memory lane is I have a couple of mugs from the Stockton Islander restaurant. And at least one my mom got me. I think she may have gotten me both of them as well. So there you go. I probably could have done this drink and just dumped it in there, and that would have been cool and fine. There's a little bit of trepidation on using vintage mugs of, there's always a possibility you can do something and break the mug and then there's no way to get another one. And this is actually relatively new. The Carcosa Horror and Clay Shores of Carcosa Double Rocks Glass mug. So there, that's quite tasty. Yeah, this drink, I'm quite liking this drink. Might want to do a split rum base. Play around with the bitters in there. Yeah, this may be the next thing I play around with for a couple of weeks, trying to get that recipe down. So there's my sign off for you for the things to think about when mixing up a brand new drink. Don't expect to get it perfect the first time, but as long as you've gotten it drinkable, it's something that you can play off of and riff off of and work on for the next couple of weeks, months, years, however many you want to do. Not all of us are Don Beach or Vic Bergeron and can get the drinks right first time around, and most of the time they didn't either. So give it a go, play around with your cocktails, and see what you like. We'll sign off for now, let you guys get some sleep, because I know that tomorrow's a work day. Hopefully tomorrow isn't a work week. Middle of the week is Veterans Day, so support your veterans. Wednesday is Veterans Day, so support your veterans. There you go. All right, talk to you later. See you next week. At least that's the plan. Hope you all had a good time, and for anybody else that is tuning into this late, I hope you've enjoyed. Talk to you later. Bye.